Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today, we have a brand new set of great stories for you to enjoy, so sit comfortably. Here we go. Grumpy telemarketer gets a surprise call back. I like to mess with scammers, so I often take their calls and string them along for my own amusement. I know it probably makes them call me more, but it's the burden I bear to supply my hobby. A couple of days ago, I get a call from a bullcrap company wanting to extend my car warranty. The company has a name on file with my phone number and they think I'm Mr. Jones. But I'm not Mr. Jones. I am his son. I guess technically I am Mr. Jones, but not the one they think I am. Let me get on with it. The agent runs through her spiel for a couple of minutes and I plainly say, I'm not Mr. Jones. To this, she replies, why didn't you tell me that at the beginning of the call? And she hangs up. B. Now at this point, I assumed the number was spoofed, but since they sounded American, I called it back. Even though the number was in my area code, it rings straight into their system, and I'm greeted with, Hello, Mr. Jones, can you verify the make and model of your vehicle? I reply that I'm calling to report that an agent just hung up on me. Then they hang up on me. Effers. So I call back. A lot. They're clearly frustrated. This one grumpy effer answers, and to throw him off guard on an unrelated topic, I ask, Are you voting for Trump in 2020? He replies, Hell yeah, I am. Why, are you going to be on Brokeback Mountain? Or some dumb homophobic crap like that a Trump supporter would say, and hangs up. I call back and get grumpy effer again, and he's clearly frustrated. He asks if I don't have anything better to do, to which I reply, Nope. At this point, he informs me that I will now be placed on the permanent call list and will receive a call daily after hours, to which I reply, Don't you have anything better to do? Grumpy effer tells me he gets paid by the hour, so he doesn't give a crap and hangs up. So I call back. At this point, the seemingly small office staff have recruited the big guns out of a desperate frustration to end my calls and sell me a GD warranty on a 2003 car with 180,000 miles. Enter Roger. Roger's a salesman. He's persistent as a mother effer with his pitch, so I start to accuse Roger of working for a scam company. Roger seems to have a passion for this company, and when I ask for a website, he gives me one. To my surprise, they have their services listed on the site, but the name is not the name they're using on calls, and the domain is only 2 years old. The name has absolutely nothing to do with cars or warranties or anything remotely close to what they're offering. I concede to Roger that I believe him when he says they're a legitimate company, albeit a crappy one on par with the ilk of payday lenders. When we reach a point of mutual respect, Roger is polite with me, so I'm polite with him. Now we're friends. I explain to him my history with scammers and tell him that the reason I've been calling incessantly is because one of his agents hung up on me. Roger is not pleased, and he says he thinks he knows who she is and he'll talk to her. Goodbye, Roger. Have a good day. Set the stage to 7 p.m., and I'm on the phone with my wife. My phone starts buzzing, and I check to see who's calling. It's a restricted number. I tell my wife I'll call her back. She knows I love messing with scammers, and I take the call. I say hello twice, then hear these words I'll never forget. Remember me, a-hole? Permanent call list. And I proceed to LOL with delight at the absurd notion that Grumpy Effer has actually followed through with his grand plan of calling me at a mildly inconvenient time. He hangs up. Now, one key detail that Grumpy Effer is likely unaware of is that I now have a friendly relationship with his manager, who seems to actually take pride in his job. I also know the number to his call center because I called it about 1,000,000 times that morning. There was really no need for Grumpy Effer to use a restricted number. Naturally, the only thing I can do here is to call my new friend Roger and let him know how his employees are spending their company time. I call the number and am greeted with, Hello, Mr. Jones. Can you verify the make and model of your vehicle? I ask to speak to Roger. The lady says, I can help you. So I tell her that one of her associates just called me from a restricted number so he could call me an a-hole. She said, Let me transfer you to Roger. Roger answers and I say, Hello, Roger. Remember me from our talk earlier? He does, so I tell him that prior to our conversation, Grumpy Effer put me on the permanent call list. I then describe Grumpy Effer as an old Grumpy Effer and ask him if he might know the agent I'm referring to. Roger declines to name names because he doesn't want to single out his employees based on their age. I respect that. I then tell him that Grumpy Effer, in fact, just called me from a restricted number so that he could simply call me an a-hole. I offer to email Roger the recorded call, but he declines as we've built a respectful relationship based on trust and civility. Roger then interrupts me. He says, "Hold on a second, let me look into this." A few minutes later, he gets back on the phone and says the gentleman, Grumpy Effer, just confirmed my story and that his behavior is unacceptable. He tells me that Grumpy Effer will definitely be written up for this behavior as it's quite unacceptable. I reiterate that I thought Roger would be deeply troubled to find out his employees were behaving like this, as they represent a totally 100% legitimate business enterprise, and this would reflect quite poorly on them. He thanks me for my call and apologizes for the situation. Get effed, Grumpy Effer. I hope that was your last write-up. And our next story. No overtime and no budgetary overruns. No problem. I work for a major Silicon Valley tech corporation. They're big. You've heard of them. You probably have some of their hardware in your computer right now. I'm involved in creative marketing. We support the top-level officers in the company, and I've been on the road many times developing presentation materials for people that you've heard of. I've been working there 3 years, but they've not converted me from contract into full-time employee. In that time, the stock has soared, and I could have made quite a bit of money, but they refused to bring me on board because they said, "You're already here, and we're focusing manpower dollars on people who are not in the door yet." They passed me over several times so that they could bring in people from the outside. No worries. I understand. I can remain hourly as long as they want. Add my rate. I bring in a decent amount of money, and I bring in an absurd amount of money when overtime is involved. And overtime is often involved, as these large events require an incredible amount of work, and I'm the only guy here who does what I do. Now for the story. In the past week, when we have large events, I've worked upwards of 80 hours per week. That's a lot of extra money. In fact, when they put me on the road, they need to pay me my hourly rate plus overtime for travel time. So a 12-hour flight is 8 hours of pay and 4 hours of overtime, just to sit on the plane. Naturally, the higher-ups, VP level and execs in the company had a heart attack after a couple of these events went by, and I raked in upwards of $10,000 in 1 week. Totally understandable. But they could have avoided all this if they'd just hired me. Oh well. They came down hard on the 2 or 3 people that are above me in the hierarchy. Naturally, they freaked out as well. I was told for our most recent show I was not to work more than 40 hours a week, no exceptions, no overtime, and no budgetary overruns. I replied, "No problem. I'll do as much of the work as I can in my 40 hours. I even said it with an honest smile. And I work my butt off 40 hours every week. No more, no less. The 4 weeks leading up to the show were insane for everyone but me. All my salaried coworkers were spending vast amounts of overtime and not getting paid for it. Nights and weekends were standard, and I just went home every day at 5 o'clock and told them that I wish I could help. Our immediate team totally understood, and they thought it was great the way I was handling everything. We have a pretty good team for the most part. In the last week before the show, I was told that I needed to complete a pretty large amount of work. I told them that this amount of work is unachievable in 40 hours. They had a choice, either bring someone else in to help or pay me the hours I would need to spend to complete it. I don't work for free. Because the department is so poorly run, many contractors have decided to no longer work with us. It was damn near impossible for them to find anyone to come in and help me. So it really came down to this. My bosses could please the top-level management by allowing me to get the work done, or explain to them why they could not deliver. I think you see where this is going. I worked 119 hours that week. That was 40 hours of regular, 40 hours of overtime, and 39 hours of double overtime. That came to a grand total of somewhere around $17,000 for 1 week of work before taxes. It was glorious, but it was also extremely exhausting. Although I must admit, cramming all that work into 1 week was much better than spreading it out and sweating for a full month. At the end of the show, I was praised personally by the CEO for all the great work I did. They're still freakish about overtime, but they realize that they need to either hire me or continue to pay me overtime rates. Personally, I don't care which one they choose. Stock is worthless to me at the price it's at right now. I've since told them that if they bring me on board as a salaried employee, I'll demand $180,000 a year. They said, "That's outrageous. We'd never pay you that much." "Well, you've been paying me that much for 3 years now. That's my price. If you'd like to talk, I sit right over there." I'm still hourly, but sitting on a beach in Belize sipping some awesome rum and smoking a Cuban cigar as I write this. And our last story. I can only come in if I'm on the official schedule. All right. Some backstory. I took some time off at uni and got hired at a big-name retail store in a local mall. Been working there for a while now, and school starts up again, so I gave my 2 weeks as a courtesy. My immediate manager says she's sorry to see me go, then asked me to come in on a certain day, even though I'm not on the schedule to finish up some inventory. Okay, no problem. Fast forward to yesterday, when I arrive at work, I go to clock in, then get an error. Huh? My immediate manager comes over with a really puzzled look on her face and overrides it. Odd. Maybe scheduling just forgot to add me? Oh well. 2 hours, I'm lugging a massive cart full of clothes across the store when Big Boss, our store manager, shows up. The conversation went something like this. "Big Boss, why are you still here? Didn't you give your 2 weeks?" Me. "Well, yes, but department manager asked me to come in to finish inventory." Big Boss. "She has more than enough people for that, and you aren't on the schedule. Stop working and leave, please." I abandoned the cart right there in the middle of the store, then went to clock out. Fun fact, one of my coworkers had a mandatory hour-long break coming up that I would normally fill in for. Since I couldn't, that meant they had to find someone within 15 minutes. Guess who was the only employee on the floor? Big Boss couldn't even go up to his office or grab a bottle of water because there was a massive line at our station. I walked out of the store 6 hours early, knowing the manager who kicked me out needed to do my job for the next hour. Good times. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.